Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 3rd May 2022. Let's see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Okay, so largely articles relate to our mains examination. Quickly we'll have overview of these articles first. On first page you can see that, yes, the page numbers they are not changed, but you can leave this part. Okay, on the first page itself, the Supreme Court verdict regarding vaccination, no one can be forced to get vaccinated. Okay, now in this particular verdict, the Supreme Court has also highlighted that the bodily integrity of the person is essential part of Article 21, right to life and personal liberty. It also talks about whatever the government was having in mind, that is community health or communal health, okay, in mind. So forcing the people to vaccinate, or simply we can say that keeping vaccination as a precondition for certain benefits to be enjoyed. So the Supreme Court has also upheld that part also. There is some kind of balance kept here between these two rights. Okay, then why we adopted quasi federalism? On, let's say, explained page or text and context page, there is one explainer about this quasi federalism. Now it is very much important from polity section, GS2 part, basics of Indian Constitution. And the quasi federalism, this key word is explained in detail, that why we adopted this quasi federalism, quasi federal, what are the quasi federal features in Indian Constitution, why we adopted quasi federalism, especially the reasons, and at the present what is the status of this feature. Okay, so GS2 paper, polity part. Then debate on national language. Okay, so it is recently in news because our Union Home Minister had expressed this view that Hindi should replace English as a link language. We have discussed so many articles in recent times, even including editorial discussion lecture, ED lecture. Okay, now here in this particular explainer on text and context page, there is, let's say, talks of how India adopted, what was the Constituent Assembly debate on calling Hindi as a national language. Then why we did not adopt that as a, let's say, national language. And then it talks about the official status of Hindi as official language of India. Okay, so which are these different articles, relevant articles from 343 to 351. Okay, so these article numbers are important for prelims examination also. Okay, and how this use of Hindi as official language resulted into lot of protests in the erstwhile Madras province, we can say Madras state, the present day Tamil Nadu state. Okay, and what was the 3 language formula used in education, all these information is mentioned here. Then 2 important editorials on page number 8. Okay, editorial page. One talks about electric vehicles, safety of electric vehicles, recent instances of fire in the electric vehicles, and unfortunate death of some individuals happened. So again it is in debate that safety of electric vehicles is very important. Some policy measures are also required in ensuring safety here, regulation. Okay, so GS3 paper, economy part. On Sunday's newspaper, in FAQ page, there was one explainer explaining the science and technology involved in the battery fires that are happening here. So I would advise you refer to Sunday's The Hindu newspaper analysis, or you can read that article by yourself. Okay, that is very important for prelims examination also. Fine. Then higher GST collections. Okay, so yesterday we had follow up on this news that April 2022, first month of this new financial year, has witnessed the record GST collections.
1.6 lakh.
Yes, around 1.6 lakh crore rupees, and this is good news in terms of revenue generation, revenue part of the government. At the same time, the article analyzes the true reasons behind such high levels of GST collections. This is very important. In general, we tend to, get happy that there is increase in revenue of the government. Government will be able to address all the policy requirements, welfare state requirements, we can say welfare policies. But we should understand the real reasons behind such hike in GST collections also. Okay. Yes, let us go in detail of all these articles. First of all, no one can be forced to get vaccinated. Now, Supreme Court has given this verdict regarding the petitions towards whether a particular person can be forcefully vaccinated, keeping community health in mind. Okay, so the rights of the larger community, can they be, put at the higher pedestal as compared to individual rights? So here the Supreme Court tried to balance these two rights. How? Let's understand. Supreme Court upheld the right of an individual against forcible vaccination. So that means government cannot vaccinate the person against the will of that person. And the government's COVID vaccination policy to protect community health also. So both are important. This is what the Supreme Court has said, especially when the infection is spreading at very faster rate. So to protect the community against such spread of infection, it was felt that some kind of compulsion was required. To vaccinate the people. So that let's say government decision was also upheld, but it found that certain vaccine mandates imposed by state governments and union territory administrations disproportionate, as they tend to deny access to basic welfare measures and freedom of movement to unvaccinated individuals. We have seen this during last few months, especially when there were threats of third wave of pandemic, and we were witnessing that some states were imposing only those who were fully vaccinated, they are allowed to pass through the state or enter the state, or otherwise they have to go through let's say COVID test and all these things. So at the same time, to ensure, let's say, some kind of welfare benefits, the person should get the fully vaccinated. All these, let's say, conditions put by certain state governments or UT administration, the Supreme Court has said that they are unconstitutional. They should be removed.
Sir, if you take as a state-wise decision, the freedom of 21 article will not applicable, sir. State-wise health conditions.
No, it is applicable. It is uniformly applicable throughout territory of India. But fundamental rights.
Sir, in my situation of contact, if they want to protect the people health, but individual rights will not be applicable, sir, on that situation.
Yes, in that situation, in particular situation, when the, let's say, community health is at stake, then the freedom, like for example, imposition of lockdown. So it was a restriction on freedom of movement. Okay. So, but it was, let's say, for the safety of community on large. Okay. So we can understand that, but now as the cases have come down, as now, let's say, infection cases have come down, these kind of, let's say, conditions, they are not applicable. They should not be applicable now. Okay. Also, Supreme Court has opined that bodily integrity is protected under Article 21 of Indian Constitution. Okay, so, and no individual can be forced to be vaccinated according to this article. Okay. At the same time, if suppose the government is applying such kind of, let's say, conditions, those conditions should follow or satisfy the threefold requirements put forward by Supreme Court in Puttaswamy judgment. Okay. Yes. What is that threefold requirements? One, it should include, let's say, yes, sorry. Threefold requirements include whether the legality of limitations imposed by the government, individual rights presupposes the existence of law. This is statutory test. Okay. So there should be legal mandate. Then the limitation should be backed by a clear law. Yes, this is first one. Second, the need for limitations should be proportionate to the legitimate state aim. So there should be legitimate state aim or objective behind taking such action, and there should be proportionate action. So this is proportionality test. Okay, this is legality test, this is proportionality test. And third, there should be rational nexus between state objectives for imposing the restrictions and means adopted to achieve them. Okay, the means should be, we can say, appropriate. They should be proportionate, they should be appropriate. So this is the threefold test, and it needs to be adhered whenever the state is having certain action impacting fundamental rights of the people.
So extreme situation only, they need to take the suspend of Article 21. So otherwise they can't able to suspend.
No, Article 21 cannot be suspended in any situation.
Only they will impose the reasonable restrictions.
Yes, only reasonable restrictions. Under that, this test needs to be followed.
Legality and legitimacy.
Legitimacy, legality and proportionality. Okay? Yes. Now, the court also directed central government to set up virtual public platform at the earliest to facilitate individuals as well as private doctors to report adverse vaccine events without compromising privacy. So this direction is also given to the central government, so that we are easily able to understand in a transparent manner any, let's say, adverse reactions happening due to vaccines. Okay, at present whatever the data is there, it is with government only. Okay, and the private hospitals, private doctors, they are not able to provide the information if they come across such kind of adverse reactions in any patient. Right? So now there will be sure virtual public platform, and the data will be fed in this platform in a transparent manner. Now next, quasi federalism. Now this concept, all of us read from M. Laxmikant about this concept, but you should know the philosophy also. For that 11th standard NCERT, Constitution at Work, it is very important. Okay. Now, why we adopted quasi-federalism? First of all, we should understand why it is in news. Okay, so it is in news because many, let's say, instances are happening in Indian polity which are, having let's say, significant impact on the federal character of Indian polity. Okay, be it related to 97th Constitutional Amendment Act, which was recently struck down partially by Supreme Court, or any other, we can say, sphere of polity wherein, let's say, there are concerns, जैसे जहाँ से GST शुरू होता है. Okay.
Itself having the so many problems.
Yes. So although it is good reform, but there are some concerns raised by the state governments or states in implementation. Then there is NEET controversy with Tamil Nadu state government and central government. So there are many such instances happening, and that's why it is in news. We should understand whether we have federal, quasi-federal or hybrid constitution in India. Okay, first of all, we should be very much clear that although there are several provisions in India, they are federal in nature, but they are not purely federal. See, the word federalism is of US origin. Okay, federalism in its strict manner is adopted in US. It means, or it has features like coming together type of federalism. And in strictest format of federalism, the states are as equal as central government in terms of power distribution. Okay, so simply federalism in layman terms, we can say that it is a division of power in different, let's say, entities of polity. Okay, no, not separation of power, it is division of power. Separation of power is the concept between three arms of the state, that is executive, judiciary and legislature. That is separation of powers. Division of powers is between different levels of polity in the, let's say, state. Central government, state government, local government.
Nothing but blocks has been separated.
Yes, so levels of government. Fine. So in India, it is not coming together type of federalism. Rather, in India, we have union of state. In US, there is federation of state. It is very much clear. That's why the word federation is not used in the constitution. In India, the word is used as union of state. Dr. Ambedkar explains the meaning of this term in the Constituent Assembly, and that meaning is that Indian states are basically, or Indian Union or India is basically indestructible union of destructible states. So this one coming together, or in Federation of States in US, it is indestructible union of indestructible state. So that means in India, states can be, their area can be changed in India, but of union it cannot be changed. So this is basically coming together is not there, rather it is holding together. So Indian federalism is holding together type of federalism, right? But do we have the similar powers of division of power between center and state? No. Rather, the division of power is like that the central government enjoys, or center enjoys more powers vis-a-vis state. Okay. So अगर हम ऐसे ड्रॉ करते हैं, right? So quasi federal, we are saying that this is, so federal with unitary bias. This is what we call as Indian Constitution. Now, what are the features? Quasi federal features? Yes, foundation batch recently Ansari sir had taught you about this.
It has the both.
Yes, features, examples, quasi federal. Seventh schedule, Indian Constitution, there are different three lists are mentioned here. Division of power is there, but residual powers remains with central government. Emergency provisions. Single citizenship. Flexible constitution. Right. So Article 3 of Indian Constitution provides that central government or simply parliament can redraw the borders of states. They can rename the states. So basically we should understand from these provisions there is some kind of unitary bias. Central government is more strong, okay, as compared to state. So these are the provisions. Now why we adopted such kind of centralized federal structure? We should understand the reasons. First and foremost is to protect integrity of the nation. Immediately after independence, we experienced this, let's say, we had the, let's say, experience of partition. And there were different secessionist tendencies. And we had integrated different princely states which were hesitant to integrate into India. So there were separatist forces at present, okay, so at that time, and to protect the integrity of the nation there required some kind of unitary force. Okay, first reason. Second, to create national identity, national civic identity. So India had different ethnic diversity, religious diversity, linguistic diversity, and this diversity acted as a threat because everyone will try to have their own identity like caste identity, religion identity, region identity, and that is more close to person as compared to nation at that time because there was no nation as such earlier. So to forge all these identities into single national civic identity, it was felt that there should be central strong government. Third one regarding, we can say, welfare state. So So under Indian Constitution, we know that DPSP is there. So we adopted welfare state in our Constitution, and to ensure that the benefits of these government schemes and policies reach to the people in a uniform manner, and the rights of the people are to be implemented, ensured. For that purpose, it was felt that central government is good. So top-down approach was considered better as compared to those independent states at that time, because they were not strong. So they would implement, or there will be some kind of hegemony of strong in the governments, state governments. So it was felt ki there will be inequality created. And then we can say that interstate regional differences. There were large scale interstate regional differences in terms of economic development at that time. To reduce this, it was felt that the central government needs to have more power. So it will bring some kind of policies. For example, there was implementation of hill area development program, drought prone area development program. So yes, so these programs were implemented so as to reduce these differences. Okay, so these are the main reasons or important reasons. So simply suppose there is question, describe the reason for adopting quasi-federal features by the Constituent Assembly members in the Indian Constitution. So write these 4-5 important reasons, then that is sufficient. Now the present status. Yes, the present status of quasi-federal feature is again becoming more and more centralistic in tendency because of, we can say, majoritarian government at the center. And there is continuous fight by those states which are having regional parties in power or opposition parties in power. Okay, different parties. So there is always conflict going on. Okay, so in future we can expect that the government needs to implement the cooperative federalism principle that it seeks to implement since it came into power 2014 से हम बोलते हैं कि कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म इंप्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं अलग अलग जगह से. सो दैट नीड्स टू बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड इन लेटर एंड स्पिरिट. Okay, and more interstate and center-state cooperation should happen to resolve all the issues. They say GST. So GST Council is there where the states are getting more say. Okay, like interstate council should be also revived to solve different issues that are there between center and state government. Okay, yes.
So main motive purpose to resolve the problems between state and state to state problems.
Yes, state to state cooperation, interstate council, along with that zonal councils are also there. So they can be used as a platform to resolve this issue.
Nothing but a Ministry of Cooperation.
Ministry of Cooperation is for a different purpose. That is for cooperatives.
Main ultimate result will be to resolve the dispute.
No. Ministry of Cooperation is for cooperatives. Okay, to promote cooperatives. That is different ones. Okay. Yes, the debate on the national language. So the article is writing about the Constituent Assembly debates about Hindi being made as let's say national language. At present it is in news. Okay, so there are concerns related to Hindi. अभी recently कोई एक क्रिकेटर ने एक्टर ने ट्वीट किया था ना, कोई एक एक्टर है इंडिया बॉलीवुड का एक्टर है, साउथ इंडिया का एक एक्टर है, उनका ट्विटर कुछ तो चल रहा था अबाउट, हाँ अजय देवगन ने बोल दिया था शायद कि इंडिया हिंदी इज नेशनल लैंग्वेज. So again it started debate. Okay, so yes, first of all we should understand that in our Constituent Assembly the topic was debated in detail. So whether Hindi should be declared as national language or not. Before that, Mahatma Gandhi during freedom struggle had promoted this view that Hindi is language of masses and it should be declared as national language. It will act as a language of facilitation or communication in different parts of the country. But the members of Constituent Assembly, they were divided. Okay, some said that Hindi should be declared as some said that English should be there, some said that there should be Sanskrit language as national language. And let's say after detailed debate in the Constituent Assembly, it was felt that no language should be declared as national language, because otherwise it will create some kind of majority minority divide. Yes, so later on it was decided that Hindi will be used in Devanagari script as official language for 15 years after independence, and along with that English will be also simultaneously used for official purpose, for official communication purpose. But yes, the numerals, Hindi numerals, uska ek concern tha, but those Hindi numerals were to be used from the English language. Okay, so this is how the official language we use in India. But this was only provided for 15 years, and Constitution clearly mentioned that after 15 years the Parliament can take the required decision whether to continue Hindi as official language or include any other language or discontinue these languages. Okay, and then thereafter, let's say in 1963 there was Official Language Act. Official Language Act 1963, and it provided for Hindi as, or continuation of Hindi as official language along with English. Okay, so initially there were concerned that under this there will be imposition of Hindi only. Okay, and because of that what happened is, immediately when the 15 years time period was supposed to expire, so immediately after that in Tamil Nadu, or erstwhile Madras province, Madras state, the protests started there, especially concerns related to UPSC examination. The students from Madras, they felt that UPSC will have only Hindi language for examination. Okay, so at that time, so wide scale protest started, and that resulted into loss of lives also. And thereafter, when Indira Gandhi government came in power, it assured Madras government at that time that we will continue use of English also as a language of central government. Okay, so this was very important development. What is 8th schedule? 8th schedule is a schedule in which some languages are mentioned. Earlier there were 14, later they were increased to 22. Originally there were 14 languages. The languages, these languages are actually important languages of India. Okay, and if we talk about the population wise, majority of population speaks these languages. Okay, now why they are separately mentioned in the schedule? Article 344 talks about a commission to be established with chairman and members having representation from these languages. Having representation from these languages, and that commission will recommend to the language committee, official language committee of India, that what measures should be taken for promotion of Hindi, or whether it should be continued or discontinued, whether English should be continued or discontinued. Okay, and also it recommends for certain elements of these languages to be included in Hindi language. This is provided in the Constitution. Okay, many times students do not understand the significance of these 22 languages. Why a separate schedule is created. They generally know that UPSC provides this option that they can write their mains examination in one of the 22 languages mentioned in this schedule, in addition to the English, right? Yes. So what is 3 language formula? Yes, that also created controversy. In 1968, when the first national education policy was implemented, it provided for 3 language formula. This 3 language formula had divided Hindi speaking state and non-Hindi speaking state. And the 3 language formula was Hindi, English, and one modern language.
Sir, or else they will take as a mother tongue now, sir.
Haan. And in non-Hindi speaking, Hindi, English plus one regional language or language of Indian origin. Language of Indian origin. This difference was made. Okay. Now, some of the non-Hindi speaking, especially Tamil Nadu, they felt that this is imposition of Hindi. This compulsion will not be accepted because this was voluntary, no? This was voluntary, but they were already using their mother tongue as compulsory language and plus English. So this should be optional rather for those states. But they felt that this is compulsion. At the same time, they felt that other Hindi speaking state, they are not using Tamil language or Telugu language for teaching the third language. Okay, so this was not implemented in compulsory manner. Later on, there was, let's say, 1986 National Education Policy. Then there was the presently being implemented NEP 2020 also talks about this formula, but there is no compulsion here. The states, there will not be imposition of any language on the state. This is very much clear.
So here one thing for my personal sir, here the Indian people is going to be addicted to learn the foreign language, sir, but not willing to learn local Indian language. Sir. Then what is the behind of psychological trauma, sir? That one?
See, when the schools promote certain languages, the students are supposed to, learn those languages. When the government says that these languages are to be taught at the school level, then there is compulsion. But there are some languages, the group of languages as an option it is given for third language generally. And some schools teach those languages, some schools do not teach also. It is optional, right? So it is not compulsion on, let's say, on Hindi speaking state to take any one specific language, and that too, of Indian origin. So they are teaching different languages like German language, French language, Russian language. Okay, and also there is Sanskrit. So in North India, Sanskrit is famous as a third language in addition to Hindi, right? But what about southern state? Like for example, I am from Maharashtra. So I learned both Marathi also, English also, and Sanskrit also as a third language. Okay. Or simply we should understand that there are options for Sanskrit, but there is no option for Marathi and English. Okay. So you can learn Hindi or Sanskrit. Okay. So non-Hindi speaking state, Maharashtra is also included there. Okay, because they have their own regional language, right? So of course that will be implemented, but nowadays we should understand that maximum schools provide for learning in English. Although NEP 2020 talks about instructions to be given in mother tongue, at least up to we can say fifth standard, and then up to we can say if possible 8th standard. Okay. Now this is important for prelims examination. Okay, yes, directly from M. Laxmikant. Yes, languages of union. Article 343, official language of union. Okay, then Article 345, official language of state. See this, Article 344, Commission or Committee of Parliament on Official Language. Okay, so yes, Article 346 talks about language of communication between one state and with another, or between state and union. Okay, and this is we can say between state and union it is English language. Okay, it is English language. Fine. So languages of Supreme Court, High Courts. 348, language to be used in Supreme Court and High Court. 349, special procedure for enactment of certain laws related to language. There are some special directives given. Article 350, language to be used in representation for redress of grievances. Then 350B, Special Officer for Linguistic Minorities, constitutional position. Then 351, this is very important, Directive for Development of Hindi Language. There is directive on the central government under this article to promote Hindi language throughout territory of India. Okay? Yes. No short circuits. Next article talks about recent fire instances happen in let's say EV or battery systems, electric vehicles. So that's why. Now electric vehicles have increasingly become a viable transportation device with more than 11 lakh electric or battery operated vehicles registered in India at present. Okay, this data, this fact can be mentioned in the answer. Then why such kind of growth is observed especially in last 10 years in India? Decline in the cost of electric vehicles. Okay, the technology has improved and overall cost has come down. Okay, then also we can say that government incentives, as government wants to achieve the targets under we can say COP26 या फिर Paris Agreement हम बोलते हैं, right? So under that Paris Agreement we want to reduce the use of fossil fuels, we want to shift towards cleaner sources of fuel, and that's why also government is providing incentives. Climate change and global warming, this has further forced the government's people to adopt more cleaner sources of fuel. That's why this let's say become the important let's say sector in Indian economy. Now why battery fire occurs? So again we'll revise this. You should refer to Sunday's newspaper, this Sunday's newspaper, Hindu analysis for this. In detail we have explained about this. In general, fire accident happens due to trio of elements. Which elements? Heat, oxygen, fuel. When these three come in contact, there will be fire. Okay, now generally what happens in electric vehicles, there are three chances. One, there can be mechanical abuse, simply there can be penetration of battery, and because of that there can be overheating. See, internal short circuit is common cause of thermal runaway, overheating. This internal short circuit can happen due to three reasons. Mechanical damage, first one. Second, internal short circuit due to overcharging. Okay, overcharging की वजह से भी हो सकता है. And third, overheating. Because of overheating also there can be shortage and internal short circuit. Because of that happens the thermal runaway, excess heating of the battery happens, and then it catches fire. We also talked about in that lecture how it catches fire. The electrolyte solution, liquid solution in the battery acts as a fuel.
Itself it is a dangerous liquid.
Yes, and that is flammable fuel, and that leads to we can say explosions. Okay? Yes. Now what should be the way forward? So way forward you can mention here that unless let's say the higher or simply we can say improved safety mechanism is not in place, so it is the responsibility of government. First of all, government has agreed that there will be new safety guidelines. Then we can say that more effective testing by all these manufacturers. It is very important that testing facilities, then again we can say that they should recall all batches where such kind of let's say fire accident has happened. Okay, this is very important at present, and surely let's say as this is new sector, emerging sector, there will be some instances and the technology is still in nascent stage we can say, and the problem will be easily resolved or overcome in near future. But here onwards the government should be enough sensitive and on its toe to regulate this sector so that such instances do not happen in future. Okay, so regulation and technological improvements, along with that fire safety guidelines or guidelines to the customers, how to use, do's and don'ts related to that. Okay.
So here one thing I observed, so that actually in the high turbo engines is coming now, sir. That high turbo engine scooters having the cooling system, sir. Automatically some cooling liquid will pass if the engine has been high heat generated. The same system is not in the electrical systems, electrical vehicles.
So yes.
If we give the support to the cooling system additionally to that battery.
In future we can expect such kind of, let's say, fire safety switches they will include. Okay, so any kind of such instance happens or overheating happens, the engine should automatically switch off. Okay, or at least warning to the user, it should be there, right? Now next editorial is related to GST. Higher GST collections in April, it was 1.67 lakh crore, highest in last 5 years since GST is implemented 2017. Okay, and last 1 year overall GST revenue collection had grown 30.8%. Okay, and the total collection was 14.9 lakh crore. Okay, now compensation cess levies will persist till at least March 2026, but they will be used to pay off special borrowings that of 2020-21 during pandemic year to bridge revenue shortfalls and compensate states. We have seen this issue last year when there was compensation was not available because the GST compensation cess collections were very less during pandemic year, and last year it was supposed to end 5-year term. It is extended by the central government up to 2026. Whatever the cess will be collected, it will be given to the state, different states, because it is still pending. Okay, compensation is to be paid by the central government, those states who lost their revenue due to GST implementation. Right? So in this analysis, what we should understand is reasons for such increase. This increase is largely fueled by higher commodity cost, okay, or simply inflation. At present, in general, there are high prices of commodities, and if there are high prices of commodities, of course the share of the tax in that commodity will be high. 18%, suppose 18% of 100 rupees and 18% of 90 rupees, which will be higher for 100 rupees. Okay, and why this high commodity price is there? Because of high crude oil prices and all the raw material imported, and because of that there is high input cost, manufacturing cost that is passed on to the consumer. Ultimately the GST that is paid by the consumer, so that is very high. So overall amount getting collected by the government will be high. Are you getting this? One reason. Second is GST collection happening from import transaction is comparatively becoming higher than domestic transaction. So it is not good because it is always volatile. Imports and exports are always volatile. They depend on international forces of supply and demand. Okay, so these two reasons shows that even though GST collections are on a higher trend, but we should be concerned about this. Inflation led GST collection is not good. Okay, ultimately that revenue will have less value.
Even the collected value also.
Yes, so in this manner we should understand in analysis the reason. Although we can say that this is good sign, and this needs to be sustained in future. This needs to be sustained in future. Okay, once the inflation will come down, we will see that GST collections will also come down. This should not happen. This should not happen. Then one thing you should understand, if the GST collections are higher, here onwards the GST Council will have enough scope for rationalization of GST rates. This is, we can say now, the new reform we expect from government. Okay, rationalization of GST rates. At present it is divided into 5 such slab: 0%, 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%. Okay, it is expected that there will be uniform rate now. This is rationalization of GST rates. Okay, so now when the GST collections are high, there is scope for rationalization of rates. Okay, so this is the important in analysis part. Fine. So any question from your side? Yes, some students are not able to watch YouTube video in a live manner at morning 10 o'clock. Okay, due to some sound quality issues. Okay, we are working to resolve this issue. Yes, but if you want to attend this lecture in live manner, if you are in Delhi, living in Old Rajan Nagar, then you can attend in the classroom itself. If you are not in Delhi, then what you can do is just give your email ID on the comment, in the comment box of these videos. We will try to provide you Zoom link. Okay, and in that Zoom link you can click on immediately join at 10 o'clock, and there will be live discussion here. Okay, on daily basis live video on YouTube is also there, and also on Zoom link. Okay, so those students who want to attend in live manner, so they can provide their email ID in the comment box, and we will provide you that link on a daily basis. At the same time, from tomorrow onwards, we will also provide in the description part of YouTube link, Zoom link will be also provided. Okay, so what you can do is just click on Zoom link and enter the password, and you will be joined here in the discussion. Fine? Okay, thank you.